Raider Nation. Thank you for joining us on the Only Nation podcast. My name is Heidi, but you may know me as Kevlar Prom-Dress or even Raider Ladybug. I'm here with Raider Homer again, and we're ready to talk some Raiders football together. Today on the show, we have a very special interview with professional photographer Karen Bates-Metters. She has worked a ton of Raiders games and has some awesome stories to share with us. Today is going to be part 1 of 2 episodes where we're going to bring you that interview.
And I'm excited to have Karen on the Only Nation podcast. She has put in a lot of work to get to where she is right now. She's working with Platinum Group Productions. They are teaming up and coming up with some great stuff for now and in the future.
What kind of stuff are they coming up with?
Well, first of all, this is the first event that they're hosting, right? And she has plans for more in the future, not just in Texas, but around the country. So keep your eye out, Raider Nation, because she has the connections with players. Go to blitzalytics.com, go to KMPS Shots, give her a like, follow her, talk to her, tell her hi, tell her that you're happy to hear her interview on the Only Nation podcast.
This event that's coming up, can you tell us any more about it?
Well, I will be broadcasting there for and that's going to be the first major event that I broadcast from. I broadcasted from the Houston tailgate. I broadcasted from local restaurants and bars here in Austin, but this is the biggest event that I'll be broadcasting from. And I look forward to bringing you interviews again on location from Karen, from Reset, who is a part of DFW RF4L, and they're hosting the event. And most importantly, I'm trying to bring Jalen Richard on. We are about 90% sure that will happen. So keep an ear out, Raider Nation, because we want to interview Raider player Jalen Richard and Raider players in the future.
Well, that sounds like a pretty good deal, Homer. It is called An Evening with Jalen Richard. It is produced by Platinum Group Productions. It is going to take place in Kendall, Texas. For more information, we're going to be posting the flyers on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And if you have any questions, you can email platinumgroupproductions@gmail.com. They'll get back to you pretty quick.
Yeah, Raider Nation, make sure you get there. You contact Platinum Group Productions, man, especially if you're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area or within a 6-hour drive. Get there, man. This is a major event, and it's going to be fun. There's going to be super fans. I'll be there. And Jalen Richard, for sure. And there are supposed to be surprises. So as we get information, we'll get that information to you.
Okay, and that's March 6th in Kendall, Texas. An Evening with Jalen Richard. How about we get into this interview now?
Let's do it. I'm excited. All right, Raider Nation. We have Karen Metters for you here on the Only Nation podcast. Karen is a professional photographer who worked her way up to the Oakland Raiders sideline, and she has some fantastic stories to tell. Thank you for joining us, Karen.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us, Karen. I really appreciate you being able to be on the show with us today. And before we get into your interview, why don't you tell us about being the official photographer for Tracy's House of Hope?
Well, working for and with Angela and Freddie is wonderful. I have to say straight up, there are probably no nicer two people and a married couple to be involved with in anything. And knowing that when tragedies like that happen, the death of a child, I think it's like 8 or 9 marriages out of 10 do not survive. The other 2 strengthen. And that's what you see, their faith in God and the strength that these 2 have taken in their relationship and their love for each other, and then pass it out back into this particular community of young women who are getting their lives back on track. It's a wonderful thing to be a part of. And, it chokes me up every time, but they're wonderful people. And it's been an honor to have them name me as their official photographer for their foundation. So that's what I've been doing the last couple of years. And it just has kind of worked out that way. And I look forward to doing all of their events and their new events that they have coming up. And any amount of time or money that can be spent, donated back to their Tracy's House of Hope is money well spent and time well spent. They focus specifically on, it's a recovery house, and by the time these young women make their way here, it's not a halfway house, but it's the last place that these young women go to before they are considered, I guess, rehabilitated. But they're young women that come out of drugs. They come out of juvenile, the juvenile system, things like that. And to the point that they get to qualify to come and live at Tracy's House of Hope is a lot of hard work goes into it for these young ladies, but they were also right on the edge of being lost for good when either they got arrested or, whatever brought them into the system. And so the reason that they started Tracy's House of Hope was back in her days as a drug addict down in the Bay Area, in San Jose, Santa Clara area. When she finally started, realizing that she needed to straighten her life out and, all of that stuff that goes on, when she went looking to get into a rehab facility or any kind of social services, there's absolutely nothing that is gender specific to girls or women. And there was nothing that was age appropriate. And so that's what Tracy's House of Hope is all about, is gender specific, age appropriate, not a shelter, but the place to come to on their last steps before being able to come back into society clean and sober and at a place that they're moving on. And that's what you're supporting when you support the Bolitnikoff Foundation.
And it's certainly a wonderful foundation.
Yeah.
And to those people who aren't familiar with the story behind Tracy's House of Hope, Fred Bolitnikoff's daughter was actually murdered while she was trying to help a fellow addict. She had already cleaned up and was taking the next steps in life.
Yeah, she was murdered, and it was domestic violence. Beyond that, I don't know any of the other details, but it was by somebody that she knew very well.
Yeah, and that's why it's a very deep subject, very sensitive subject, and one that we completely support.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and I support for young men as well, but some of the paths that I got pushed on the last 8 or 10 years put me on the the outskirts of looking in on certain things that I never would have seen before. And the things that I observed in the places that God put me so I could help, wherever, whenever, things like that. One of the things that I did observe was that there is very little that is specific to girls or women. Pretty much, if you're a mom and a woman and you have children, then there are services for you. But if you happen to be single, they're minimal. And one of the things that really needs to change in our society is making sure that things are gender specific and age appropriate. And I even almost go more with age appropriate than I do gender specific. Then you could really, really make a difference in these people's lives that want that difference, but don't know how to go about starting it on their own.
See, as a father, of a daughter, I can really appreciate what Tracy's House of Hope does for women and young ladies out there. Because if my daughter ever needed help, it feels good to know that she has somewhere to go and that there are people out there that are looking out for her. And especially, my heart goes out to the Bolitnikoffs, but it's reassuring to see that the Raider players, back up, the people that they need to, Bolitnikoff doing that is special because, like you said, he could have went the other way and it could have all fell apart, but he stayed strong and he, built a house for young ladies to go to be safe. I mean, I can really appreciate that.
Definitely. And not just the Hall of Famers, but the old school Raiders, all of the teammates. I mean, all the way up through not so many years ago when he does his golf tournament or the Crab Fest, you see a wide range of Raider Nation and Raider Foundation and the Raider franchise support. And it is something. And Raider Nation and our feeling of family, it doesn't just start out in the parking lot or at another, watch party somewhere across the country. It started right there in Oakland, and it started with Al Davis, and it started with the Raiders. And it's the more that I'm around all the different facets of what the Raider organization is, that's one of the things that has become crystal clear to me. And it's an amazing thing. We're blessed. There might be 32 teams in the NFL, but I'll tell you what, there is only one Raider Nation, and there is truth in that. But you've got to get out and get involved in it to experience it for yourself. I just think that our love of football and this one team has brought together an incredible base of people and talents and love and kindness, and of course we have to have the dysfunction in there somewhere, because I mean, what the hell are we all going to laugh at if we don't have,
Yeah, we need some levity every
it's
now
like
and
any
then.
family. I tell mine too, as long as there's fun and the dysfunction, I'll still come around, but when there's no more fun, I'm out of here. So it's either entertain me and make me laugh, or I'm going home. So, but that's how it is in Raider Nation too. But it's a wonderful thing that other fan bases, while they might have their closeness, they will never have what the core Raider Nation family has. And I don't know, it's a cool thing. And I guess my point is, again, from the parking lot all the way to people who are in advanced ages here, everybody still comes together for one cause. And it's a wonderful thing to be a part of. And I've been blessed for sure.
Yeah, and that's where we actually get the name of our podcast, the Only Nation Podcast, because we really are the only nation.
Well, it's the only one that sounds good too. Everything else is like, are you kidding me? Like, especially when I'm in Dallas, this is the part that kills me about all them cowboy. Oh my God, them stinking fans of theirs.
Oh,
it's like,
man.
it's not Cowboy Nation. That doesn't even sound good. I mean, you're a cowboy, for crying out loud. You're supposed to be out on the range. Isn't that called a territory? Aren't you supposed to be roping something somewhere? Don't you have something else better to do that sounds just a little bit better? Besides the fact that it irritates me to no end. There's no other nation, people. I don't even like nationwide insurance. There's only one. It's not you either.
Right.
So do you have some contact info for Tracy's House of Hope?
Well, let me see here. I know that they have their page on Facebook, and you can find Fred Bolitnikoff Foundation. Angela Bolitnikoff is also has her stuff there on Facebook. The actual location of the house is up in Rockland, outside of Sacramento. I would think that somewhere along the line, a little bit of a search, and I'm sorry I don't have any other information. I didn't know, or I would have written it all down. But if you're looking to go search for something, they'll come up real easy. That would be the best way to find them.
That'll work. We'll make sure that we put some links down on the posts and things like that.
That would be awesome, because even if you can't participate in any of their events for whatever reason, you know what? Every little bit helps. So it doesn't matter how small a donation is, whatever, if you want to make one, whatever you're led or feel that's right for you to give.
Absolutely.
It all adds up, and it all adds up into something, into one piece of something wonderful.
Yeah, and even if you're just genuinely not able to give anything, sharing the message, sharing on Facebook, sharing on Twitter, sharing amongst the people you know can be just as helpful.
Well, actually a lot more helpful, because you never know. And I will say this on behalf of Freddie and Angela, because we start off every event starts off with prayer. And that if you've got nothing more to give, then say the prayer, because those don't go unanswered or unappreciated either. You just never know. Little things like that make a huge, huge difference in the world that we live in. And they would appreciate it. They don't have to know about it, but in their hearts, they would know.
Okay. So with the heavy heart, let's move on and hear more of your story. We met at the Crab 5 Foundation football camp, and it was a great experience. I got to volunteer and help, play water boy on the field and help, clean up the stadium and even get some autographs, but so I want to know, what does it take to land a gig and then shoot an event with Raider players?
Well, how I actually landed the Crabtree was, I was out here in Sacramento visiting, my daughters, and I read something that was posted on by, Raider Nation for Life, which is the club that stepped forward to bring in, all the volunteers. Actually, I talked my way into it. I was like, to Roland on an email. It's like, well, you need to have a photographer in here to take a photograph for the club. If we're going to be doing these things, then, it's nice to have images and all of that stuff. So that's pretty much how I got there the first time, was through that way, doing things for the club. And same with when I went down, to New Orleans and Miami and Nashville were the 3 other ones. I went along, but I went to go photograph all of the different stuff that was going on for Raider Nation and putting my time in there. And then from Crabtree's camp, I did that one, 3 years in a row. And then from his camp, that actually is where I met DeAndre Washington. And he had asked me if I would help him set up his camp. So I'd done photography for his camp, and then shooting his camp, that's where I met Jalen Richard and a bunch of the other guys too, but these are the ones that I've actually continued a working relationship with. So some of it is just you volunteer where you can and when you can, and opportunities present themselves. That's how I worked with these guys doing their camps, doing stuff through Raider Nation, how I got onto the sideline. That's another thing that I think just being in the right place at the right time, and it was meant to be. I had never done Twitter before. In fact, when Twitter first came out back in, 2008, 2009, somewhere there, it gave me a migraine, and I had nothing to do with it for all these years.
Yeah, it's a cesspool for sure.
Right? So I had nothing to do with it at all, and I forget what it was that started me, but I started, probably because it was time I needed to increase my online presence with what I was doing. And I still resisted Instagram, just so you know. But one day we just celebrated the year anniversary here at the early month of February. But I was on Twitter scrolling through, and I came across a thing on this internet, blitzalytics.com, and they were looking for contributors, and it said that they were an all football, content provider site. So I clicked on over there, and I'm looking through their stuff, and in my mind, I'm like, no, you're not. I don't see any visual. I don't see any pictures. I don't see, none of that. So I answered, and I submitted basically an application to become a contributor and talk the owner or Jack into, well, you need to really have a branch of visual content. If you're going to have writers, then why are you going to AP and Getty and all the other stuff online to pull an image when you could have our own string of photographers and going to our photographers and their images to enhance whatever their blog posts are and the different things that the scouts and the contributors do. And so that's how that came about. And, it was hold our breath and fingers crossed, because I didn't know if I was going to get credentialed at the Raiders. They're probably one of the most difficult teams to get onto their sidelines. But I think when they did their due diligence, which they do on that application, there was links on Blitzalytics to some of my images, and then, back out to my portfolio. But on there, I showed my camps, pictures that I did at Crabtree and what I did at Washington's, and some of the other, of course, things that I did here. But it went and showed them that I've been involved with their organization 2 steps outside of actually, being at the Raiders. So, I up until July, when they actually issued the credentials, we didn't know whether I was going to get them or not. And then, of course, when I got them, well, then I bent just about every rule that there was on the sidelines. Like, oops. It's the Raider way. I'm like, for crying out loud, we all know that rules, hearts, and promises were all made to be broken.
Yep.
So I just try to bend them all up like a pretzel and go as far as I can without actually breaking any. But it's just been a lot of hard work, not giving up and believing in myself, even the tough times. And there was some tough times. I'm just driving across Florida from Miami to Tampa with Johnny Cross. The last time that we were all down, year before last, when we were down there, just on that conversation, we were just talking about it the other day. He said, because I didn't get it at the time. He goes, but you were, you were hot about, a couple different subjects, and just saying that I will get there. I will be there, and I don't know how, but it will happen. And he said, and here it is. You've been busting your butt all these years, and so to turn around and see you actually do what you said 3 or 4 years ago that you were going to accomplish is, it makes me feel good. But, to have somebody say, I'm so proud to see you do that, and I'm proud to know you. And I've been blessed. I've been blessed since I moved to Texas with all my Raider stuff and people. And I didn't know when I went there looking for a job that this is where I was going to end up. It's a crazy life when you sometimes walk by faith, but sometimes that's the hardest way to go, when you don't know where you're going to be or how it's going to happen. And other people who are based in logic and reason and, that mindset doesn't understand when you say, I don't know. I don't know how it's going to happen. I just know that it is. It feels good to finally have it come about.
Congratulations. It takes a lot of hard work to do anything, as we all know, and to stay with it when it seems like it's not going to happen is the most important thing. So, I'm glad for you. You're accomplishing what you want, and just keep going. You will get more and more.
Definitely. And I will say this is kind of, I was telling my oldest daughter the other day, it's taken me about 14 years from the time that I said, this is what I want to do, to actually end up doing it. And so one of the things I realized when I actually got credentialed onto the sidelines and start, networking with the different photographers and people and stuff like that, that at 40, 41, 42, I wasn't old enough. The average age on that sideline, I'm still at 50 something. I'm still, younger than a whole bunch of them as far as average age on the sidelines. Couple takeaways from that. One, as long as you don't get plowed over like I almost did by Waller, as long as you can stay healthy on the sideline, you've got quite a long time. You can be there for quite a long time as you advance up in age. And then the other part of it was, as I was telling Janelle, is when I turned 40, I got carded more times after I turned 40 than I ever did before I turned 24. I never, ever, ever got carded. So I was telling her at 41 or 42, I said, I wouldn't have been walking the sidelines trying to shoot the action. I'd have been running from half the players trying to date me. So, not that that's a bad thing, but I get it now. But there's a whole different level. These young men now are, for the most part, on average age. My youngest daughter's 29 and the oldest is 33. So now these guys that are coming in, 22, 23, 24 years old, 25 years old, well, I am old enough to be their mom. And that gives me a different perspective and it gets me a different place than, again, going back 15 years ago, 14, 15 years ago when I was in my early 40s, back doing the math on that, there's not that many years. So I'm appreciating my relationships with some of with these young men. If they're my boys, God gave me girls, I get to adopt my boys. But I'm enjoying it a lot more now than I think, and differently than I would have all those years ago. Although where I'm at today and looking back on that, it's like, okay, I finally get it. Like, I get it. Thank you. Let's just move on to the next one. But it's an interesting dynamic for sure when you get on that side of the game, I guess. And I liken it to literally being able to jump over the wall there in the black hole from being a fan standing there on the wall to on the other side of there, standing there being the photographer. It's a lot of fun. I've had a lot of fun doing this.
I did that flag unfurling and you were there. I mean, I had a blast. I couldn't imagine what it would be like to work on the sidelines. That would be awesome.
It's awesome. But you know what, for me, doing that. And so when I walked up on all of you guys standing there, because I was not expecting to see you guys there. And for me as the photographer, and I get to turn around, I was like, oh my gosh, it made my whole day, and I've got many more images than what was just posted up that I took of you guys unfurling the flag and all the different stuff over there. But when I get to come across people that I know, it makes it even better. It makes it a whole lot of fun. And that was neat. Who knew that thing was that big, right?
Yeah, it was huge. It covered up the whole field.
Yeah. And when you get to stand there and do that, how much work really goes on behind the scenes that you never see when you're watching the broadcast.
Yeah.
There's always something going on somewhere. So standing where you were at, you got to see all kinds of good stuff.
Oh, yeah. That was a great weekend. Great weekend.
Well, I'm glad that you guys got that experience too. That's awesome.
So how long have you been a photographer and how did you get into it in the first place?
Okay. I took a photography class in high school. It was my junior year, and I can say all the way back then, and this was film and it was old school in the dark room and all that. I enjoyed the shooting and I enjoyed the dark room, but I didn't get the numbers, the F this, the stop, F stops and this number and that thing. And all of the technical stuff was just, I don't know. I took pictures and I had fun in the dark room. And then it was in the late 90s. And, so what was happening in my life back then was getting ready or gearing up for a very, very nasty divorce in a small town. I was starting to be ostracized and pushed out. So while I was still doing, I had 4 daughters and 2 of them were cheerleaders and, PTA and fire department and church and all the stuff that goes on in a small town. I still would have to go to these things, but a whole lot of the people were not being very nice to me anymore. And the girl's dad had bought me a Canon Rebel. And I started, as I was standing literally on the outside of some of this stuff, I just started to feel like I still belonged. I started photographing. And so what that allowed me to do was kind of be in and out and around and still be able to say hey and socialize with people who were basically still my friends while navigating other people who were still deciding what side they were going to choose. And I found back then that I had a knack of capturing, it's what I love doing, candids, of capturing the heart and soul and essence of who somebody is. And then move that one on up. So when my oldest daughter got into high school and was cheerleading, I'm not sitting in the stands with those people. So I started walking the sidelines like I did in high school. And I started photographing again. And it was just a matter of reteaching myself. And I'm basically self-taught. We did that. I would do the action, which I love, and then turn around and the action of, the girls cheering and what they do and stunting and all that stuff. So I did that for 8 years while the girls were getting through high school. And I had made up my mind after divorce that photography was how I was going to support myself. Back then I had money and talent, but I didn't have skills and contacts. And over the course of years and getting kids through college, now I have the contacts and I have skills and I have talent, and we're working on that missing piece here to make the rest of the stuff come together and take off. But it's been a labor of love and where I felt that I wanted to be. So that's how I came into being a photographer. Some of it was, I guess, maybe a little bit of survival, a little bit of philosophy, and then the rest of it has just been a lot of fun and a lot of stories and some good memories.
So it sounds like you were a sports fan or a football fan before the photography even happened.
Yeah, actually, yes. As a baby and a little girl, I think I was telling Homer this. So back in 1955, my dad, he was being scouted by UCSF and on a football scholarship. But back in the 50s, nobody really thought about these things, and they would put the sprinkler systems down the middle of the football field or whatever, and it was one of the sprinkler heads that took my dad's knee out. And back in 1955, I mean, it was a full on meniscus, ACL, the whole 9 yards. I mean, he had basically no knee left. He got left behind. So his coach that year in 1955, when he graduated, his head coach was Rod Franz, and Rod Franz left Mount Diablo High School and went to the Detroit Lions, and he was the Detroit Lions head coach for I don't know how many years. So my dad's high school coach ended up in the NFL. His friends, a lot of them went to college. They went on to play inside the NFL, and he got left behind. And I can remember as a toddler sitting up in his lap, and I'm pretty sure my dad, talking football in my ear before, I knew anything. That, I think, is how I learned it. He used to take me to the Friday night football games and make me sit on his lap. I couldn't move I wanted to cheer. I wanted to cheer so bad, but he wouldn't let me. I'd have to sit there because we were there to watch the football game. But then come halftime, I got to stand between, and march and do all of that fun stuff. And then when it was time to sit, we sat back down and we watched that football game. So somewhere in there, I grew up with it, and I know it instinctively, but I really can't have an intelligent conversation on X's and O's and this and that and the other stuff. I can just tell you who's going to do what, and this one's going to cause a fumble and that one's going to run it back. And most of the times I'm not wrong. So it's just been something that I grew up with. And I've been walking sidelines since I was in high school. And my boyfriend in high school went on to play for Boise State, and he was on the team that won the very first BCS championship, and his jersey was actually retired 3 or 4 years ago at Boise State. So football's always been my sport, and the one I like. It's the one I'm attracted to. Different athletes, the whole 9 yards. But I just love the world of football. It's a great world to be in as a woman. It's rank and file. It's primarily men, and men don't have the same drama a bunch of women do. And I prefer to walk in that world. And it's a different world to walk in, but it's one that I actually start to feel like I'm normal. Like I'm normal. I belong there. So that's how I came to do, football primarily. Sports, any sport that's action, I'm out there. I mean, heck, I'm out there with the toddlers and the dogs and you got to be fast for that too. So as long as I'm working with the camera, I'm pretty much a happy camper.
What are the most challenging types of pics that you like to take?
The unexpected ones that you got to spin on a dime, it's all reflex. Those ones are the ones that I find I like the best, only because they're not set up. They just happen, and either you nail it or you don't. Those are the ones that I like. And then the ones after that are the candid shots, and the ones where the unguarded things, or the part that's the life of a football player on the sidelines, or, you know, what have you. I like doing those that type of photography as well. I guess more editorial or photojournalist type style. There's a lot of good stuff that can come out of photography. Yeah.
There's a lot of good things a lot of beautiful things you can find with the Raiders.
Oh yeah.
God, yes.
Yeah. You've taken a lot of those pictures, you know.
Yeah. I mean, you've got the Gothic, you have the macabre, you have funny, I love the imagination in Raider Nation. I really do. Some of the, I don't want to say get-ups, but, you know, some of the things that people come up with absolutely amaze me with the creativity. There's one young lady, I don't know her name, but she had season seats, but she would paint on her face, like from the nose down, the skeleton mask or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh my! And I know when you see her, you know, if I were to show you a picture of her, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. But some of it are just the precision that things are done and painted, and, you know, just the creativity. I love it. I'll say this: there's never a dull moment inside Raider Nation. That's for sure.
For sure. We're always being creative, always, you know, taking the next step and expanding the fan base and the super fan culture. I mean, it's fantastic to see how far the Raider Nation has come since, you know, Wayne and some of the other guys started, you know, Gorilla Rilla and all that.
Exactly. It's amazing. In fact, what my newest favorite thing now is the little ones coming up.
Yeah.
Like little Jay. Oh my gosh, that kid. I'll tell you what, he has a future in front of him, no matter what he wants to do, whether he would want to continue on with this particular persona and grow up into it. But he definitely has acting, but he's just, you know, oh my gosh, that kid is something.
Oh yeah.
He's a lot of fun.
He's hilarious. I've been able to work with him in the past, man. And shout out to Natalie too, his mom. She's doing a lot to take care of him.
Yes,
and he's grown up in the Raider Nation, you know, she's raising him right. So that's a beautiful thing to see.
On many, many levels. Did you by any chance see what she posted up that he had said to his eye doctor the Friday before the Super Bowl? All?
What was it?
Oh my God, because this one still cracks me up. So apparently he goes and he gets his eyes checked and all that. And so, you know, the eye doctor comes back in, and it's the Friday before the Super Bowl. So this little one, he's repping what he reps, and apparently, you know, the eye doctor's got what he's got on. And so he comes in and he sits down and he goes, I got some good news for you today. He goes, you're not colorblind. And this little one takes around and tells him, he goes, well, I wish I was today with all that ketchup and mustard you're wearing.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, that just still cracks me up, you know, out of the mouths of babes for sure, that I have all that ketchup and mustard you're wearing.
There was too much of that this year.
Oh
my gosh. Try being out here in the Bay Area with all the bandwagon fans. Oh my goodness. This is why we, you know, like LA Raider fans and most of Raider Nation hates the Kansas City Chiefs. And believe me, I don't like them. But I grew up here in the Bay Area on the other side of the Bay. I hate the 49ers. I hate everything they stand for. I can't stand the fan base. Even when I go down into the Alumni Association, because I've done charity events down there, and inside it's amazing, the history, you know, it's like a museum in there with all of the old stuff, and it's primarily obviously Raiders and 49ers. And it's all I can do not to choke on the red and gold. Oh.
Yeah, that was a tough Super Bowl for the Raider Nation, but for me, it's I'm not from the Bay Area, so for me it's the Chiefs. I hate them so much. Yeah. I can't stand their division rival. You know, I did not want them to win another Super Bowl. Unfortunately, they did, but you know, that was ugly to watch. I couldn't stand it.
Well, I'll tell you the other one I can't stand, but being from the Bay Area and a lot of like the newer fans, don't know that the Seattle Seahawks used to be in the AFC West, and I cannot stand the Seahawks. I don't care what division they play in. I don't like them.
Yeah. So on blitzalytics.com, you have a lot of pictures of Raiders and the Raider Nation. So what are some of your favorites?
Some of my favorites is whether it's on the wall or 3 or 4 or 5 rows back, but at any given game in any stadium, but when I turn around and I actually recognize and I know that person up there, that I like. That is a lot of fun, because then I get to say, hey, and I get, the image. So a lot of the ones when you see people, back up further up in the stands or from the stands, most of the people are ones that I have friendships and relationships with. And so I enjoy that a lot, actually, as well as the action. In fact, I almost like shooting the fans as much as I do the action and the candids on the sidelines and what have you. For me, that's all game day to me. Both sides of the wall, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. You take some great pictures, I know I've talked to you a little bit, so I want to get the story. I want you to talk a little bit about that Darren Waller picture where, he's getting tackled.
Let's talk about Darren.
Let's talk about Darren, right? Oh my gosh. Okay. So a couple things. So any woman, any lady Raiderette that sees that picture, right? With this guy reaching around and grabbing him. I was just saying, the women come unglued more than anybody else. I go, hell no. So there is a picture, and I didn't see it until I was editing later that night and the next day. So earlier in the game, Waller was going up for a reception, and the guy on the Houston, Johnson is his last name, which makes it
my God.
Oh, you should have seen the one-liners with all the writers at Blitz, because I posted up. I'm like, boys, am I seeing what I think I am right here? So, he's full on. This isn't even incidental contact. He has him full on by the nuts, right?
Yeah.
In this picture. And so you can see Waller's eye, it's just one of those split seconds, but you can see his eyes kind of bugged out, oh shit, right?
Yeah.
So we get back from Houston, and I think it was the week after, or somewhere along that. Yes, it was the week after. That was when Freddie had his crab fest. And so at the Raider Foundation table, Mark Davis was there and some of the others. And I'd seen Mark Davis at different things in Houston and Las Vegas and what have you. And so I sat down and was talking to him for a second, and I was like, check this out. So he takes my phone and he looks at it and he goes, I see. That wasn't an incomplete pass after all. And I kind of, looked because it went over my head, and I looked at him and he goes, hey, someone caught balls.
Oh, man.
Oh my God. But now the flip side of that. Okay. So I raised my daughters with this saying that, you typically don't make fun of anybody, right? Because laughing is getting. Whatever you go and tease or give somebody shit about, it's going to come back around and get you. Well, you see, I've been laughing, right? I've had some good laughs over this one particular picture. We get down to, I think it was a Cincinnati game, maybe one of those games in there. And where Lisa, one of my photographer friends that I made on the sidelines, we're standing there, we're talking, and we just get up to line of scrimmage, and we just looked over down at line of scrimmage, and we look back at each other, and we're like, shit. It's like that. We're sorry about this, but we get just as bad as the guys on the sidelines. But I quote, we're both of us looking, like, shit, that fucker's going to come right at us. She takes 3 steps sideways, right? So Derek throws out and he throws out a pretty good pass out here, and Waller's got it. And he turns to take and make the cutout. It was right at me. Right at me. And so I'm taking all the steps back that I could until there was nowhere really else for me to go. And he stops up. I'll give this guy credit, hit the control. He literally stops up because everything is in slow motion when you think you're going to be the one going down. And so he stops up and both of his toes, they were on a line right there to not go out of bounds, but he just completely stops his body about 6 inches from me, and I'm looking up at him. Now I'm the one with the oh shit eyes, right? Oh my God. So he stops up and he looks at me, and then he just drops the ball at my feet, and then he, turns and walks away. So I haven't figured out how to take that, whether it was a little bit of respect, there you go, Mama didn't take you out, or there you go. Laughing's getting, he's laughing now. So the little girls there on the sidelines, and Lisa, because I got a mouth, and so I was like, because he is hot, right? And I'll tell you what, in my younger days, I would, right? I'd be hot on that. And so until these little 20-somethings, until these little 20-somethings, I'm like, damn. I said, I wouldn't mind being underneath him, but I didn't want to get knocked flat on my back like that.
Oh, shit. Damn it.
But yeah, the moral of that story is, it was funny, but be careful what you laugh at. That, oh my gosh, but yes, when the women see that red-handed glove on his silver front, I was like, I'm not even happy about that one either. I think just get your hands off of that.
I think I'm more jealous.
I know. There's that too, right? Like, dude, seriously? It's like, get out of here. Yeah, he definitely, I really appreciate Darren Waller, and I have a lot of respect for him. I love his focus and his dedication to the game, to his sobriety, all of that stuff. There's just something about him that he's going places. He learned a lesson, and God took him into a place, that he needed to be so he could come out and mentor to somebody else. And I just have so much respect that, I don't know about you, Heidi, but there's something about him that draws you in.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And I know I'm not the only female Raider fan that thinks that. And I'm sure some males do too. But,
yeah, I know. Like, hey, that's fine. Well, you know what? We can go with this. So my ex-husband back in the day, like I'm a Howie Long fan. And so.
Me too.
Okay. So I got a saying on this. If I ever saw this man walk in the same room with me, I'd take and put a tackle on him so hard and fast that he ain't ever seen inside the NFL. So I don't know, I said that one time we were at a fire department thing, and all the guys turn and look over at Chris, and he looks back at me and he's like, what? Why? He goes, it's Howie Long. He goes, I have the letter. And I was just buzzing up, and I'm like, yeah, that's right, because Howie will fuck you up. And even to this day, it's like, what did I tell you about Howie? Don't mess with me.
Now you have another story with Howie's autograph, right?
That was when yes. Okay. So yeah, when we were dividing up community property, there was three things that we almost got into knockdown, drag out. And one was the lawnmower that he bought me that he wouldn't let me take. One was the black lab dog that adopted us, and I still swear was an angel. And the third thing was the Howie Long jersey. So going through divorce, gifts are gifts. And I'm like, that's fine. You know what? You keep that one. I know what you did to get that 8x10. You went onto eBay. Blah, blah, blah. I said, not a problem. I said, when I get mine's going to be autographed by that man standing right here in front of me. And when I get my picture autographed, it's going to go like this. To Karen, great big best itty bitty fan I ever had. Love Howie. So when you walk in the room from across that room, it says to Karen, the best I ever had. Love Howie. That is going to be my autographed jersey.
My best friend and I, we named her cat Howie Longtail.
Oh, right on. My daughter's, one of her her standard poodles, Justin tried to name it Rocco. I'm like, no. This is Howie. And Howie is one of the coolest freaking dogs that you will ever come across. I love that dog. But Howie. The girls named him after Full House, but way back with Michelle, their girls grew up in the 80s, but it was when the little cousin came out and they fell in love, and she kept saying, Howie, no bye-bye, Howie, no bye-bye. Well, to them, that's how Howie got his name. I'm like, no, it's not. It's Howie Long. So you guys can Howie, no bye-bye all you want. We know how Howie really came about being. And then to find out he was there at the last home game, and I didn't see it until I come around the thing, and then my radar went up, and I'm like, "Ooh, Howie's here!" I couldn't get close enough, which is probably a good thing because that tackle might have been the full-on halftime show.
Oh man, that's hilarious.
Dude, I got a jersey you need to autograph.
Come here, boy.
Right? And that's what he said to him, like, shoot, I didn't take the rug burns. Get over here.
Oh shit. It's not made for kids, that's for sure.
Oh, God, that's funny.
My crushes growing up were Howie Long and Marcus Allen.
Oh, Crush. Oh, yeah. Like back in the day. Heck yeah.
Yes.
Yes. In his, when he was a rookie and all that. And I'll tell you what, the first time, and I got a good shot, but not the best shot, but the first time that Josh Jacobs went up and over into the end zone, I was like, oh my God, we finally got somebody who's going to channel the Marcus Allen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Marcus said that he reminds him of Bo more. So that's, that's telling of what Bo Jackson, what kind of impression he made on Marcus Allen,
Oh, most definitely. And I can see that too. But for me, when I think of Bo and in all of his, like his professional, I see him kind of actually a little bit more, what is it? Was it Murray? Which one is the one that could have gone on and played in the Major League and NFL? One of the quarterbacks.
Yeah, Kyler Murray.
It was Murray.
Kyler Murray, yeah.
Yeah. Being that good of an all-around athlete that you have two different types of professional sports coming at you. That's when somebody says somebody reminds them of Bo Jackson, that's what I think of. But I can see technique, build, the way he plays, his style. I could see where Josh would be more tailored after Bo Jackson, the same way that Marcus Allen tailored his style of play after O.J. Simpson. That when you looked at Marcus Allen, there were elements that you were, from the back, you were looking at O.J., when he was in his prime. So I can see that. Either way, I wouldn't want to mess with either one of them. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Josh he's been busy this last season up until he injured his shoulder. I've got a couple pictures of candidates of him on the sidelines, but he's still a little bit more guarded and elusive. But that's just, allowing somebody like me to photograph those unguarded moments. So I don't have as many of him, or I'll tell you one of the biggest sweethearts, and I just think the world of him. Marcel Aitman is another one. This guy, when he smiles, he just lights everything, he just lights up. I've got a couple images of that I'm editing, and I find myself, I'm smiling, or as I scroll past it, there's one that just makes me happy when I see it. Jalen Richard is another one that I think I had to edit like 70 images from an autograph session, and I'm grinning as wide as he is the whole time I'm doing it. He just, he's another one that has a smile that when he walks into a room, the energy shifts, it changes, and he just lights that place up. And he's a lot of fun also to be around. And I'm happy he got a 2-year extension too.
Right.
I'm really happy for him. Yeah.
And you almost got in trouble with Jalen on the field, right?
Oh, that was DeAndre walking off after the very first game.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're walking off the game, and he came up to me and super sweet, puts his arm on my shoulder. He's still got his pads and all that. And so, he and we're deep in conversation. Like, no, we're talking about the camp and this and that and all the other stuff. So the team, everybody else takes off and they're gone down the tunnel, and he and I are, we're still walking. Well, apparently I didn't know this because I got horse collared by somebody behind me. They're like, you can't do that. And I'm like, do what? They're like, nobody walks in before the Raiderettes walk in behind the team. I'm like, oh, fucking excuse me. I didn't know that. I'm talking to my guy here. Give me a pom-pom. I'll shake it.
Technically you are a Raiderette, right? Well,
That's right. Yep. And I would have been back in the day if I hadn't been married so darn young.
So don't get married early, ladies.
Yeah.
Live
right?
your lives.
And then after I turned 40, when my oldest daughter turned 18, which I believe you have to be 18, I know for a fact on the inside and out, but to be a Raiderette, the first 2 rounds are your looks. It's what does your face look and what's your body. Those are the first 2. And then when you get to the 3rd round and they start making cuts, you better have some talent in there too. Well, I knew I had the first two rounds. But I wanted to try out with my daughter. But she was up in Chico and going to college and really didn't have time. I said, it's not about you making the team, damn it. It's about both of us trying out. I wanted to do the mother-daughter thing at least one time, and I didn't get a chance to. So now it's just like, we'll just wait for one of the granddaughters to grow up and she can go in and do it.
I don't think you would have any Al Davis or Amy Trask stories, right?
Al Davis stories? No, the only one that I have back from the early 2000s, and when I did get to shoot a couple Pro Bowls and back then trying to make my way into this style of photography, but you know how Al would piss everybody off. And I was telling me, buddy, oh man, because you just tell, okay, and forgive me now for the blasphemy, okay, but I will say this. So you'd always tell at the very end when Al started mixing his fingers into it, because we'd be on a winning streak and then bam, there it would come, right? Al's calling the shots again. So I used to tell my hardcore Raider fans, if I ever got on the sideline too bad you can't really see me. I said, but I could see him coming with his walker. I just put one foot out.
Oh, man.
Just saying. I know. And now in retrospect, and the deeper that I get into, the history and the heart and soul of the organization and things like that, and really get into the things that Al Davis was the forefront. Mm-hmm. He was always on the front end of whatever was going on in society, feeding, and for that, I am a lot like that, and I can respect it. And the fact that not only was he on the forefront of, hiring women and people of color and all of the other stuff, to be out in front of everybody, 3, 5, 7 years ahead of the times, that's a hard place to be. And having been like that myself, now I have a whole lot more respect for the strength that it takes to constantly be 1 or 2, 3 steps, not only ahead of everybody else, but ahead of society. And setting a standard is, the older I get, the more respect I have for what it really takes to not only to do it and be consistent, but to accomplish while you're doing it. So I wish I did. I have a couple more, like I said, I have a couple more Mark Davis stories than I ever would Al Davis, but I kind of wish I'd have been around and would have been blessed to at least to have been able to see him. One of the photographers on the sideline was Jerry, but he's 84, I think. He's been shooting the Raiders for 40 years now. And I got to spend some time with him down at the Chargers game. You want to talk about somebody who knows anything and everything. In fact, that's somebody you need to interview is Jerry. His knowledge of Raider stuff. He knows things that the Raider historian doesn't even know. And so he was asking me, I think he was testing me a little bit. He goes, out of all those years that I've been, photographing at the Raiders, he goes, do you know how many times I actually interacted with Al Davis? So, I was looking at him and I just held up my hand with one finger. And I said, I guarantee you, one time. And he looked at me and he goes, that's right. He goes, I only had one interaction with him. And I said, well, whatever. Obviously he liked you. You're still here. But that's how elusive that Al Davis could be and would be, is that if he didn't want you to know that he was there, you would never know that he was. I can so relate to that.
You just mentioned Al Davis being ahead of the times, hiring females and African Americans and things like that. So what about Amy Trask? Did you ever meet her?
Not until I got on Twitter, but she's next in line. I love that lady on many, many different levels, but I would just love to sit and listen to more of her stories about Al. And as far as the Al Davis side, but more importantly, I think I would really like to listen to her stories about was she the first female CEO?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
In the NFL, something like that? Yeah. Well, hey, she's the founding partner and CEO of the big three, the big three 3-on-3 basketball with Ice Cube and, I forget who the third person is, somebody out of the NBA, but the three of them founded up that new 3-on-3 basketball league.
She's a very, incredible lady.
Very much so. She has a lot to teach. A lot of young women, well, and men too. She just has a lot to teach with where she's been, where she's going. And, I got to get her book. I do have to get her book and read it.
The Princess of Darkness, right?
You negotiate like a girl.
Oh,
you
yeah.
negotiate
Okay.
like a girl. I knew that like a girl was in there because I bet like a girl every time too. Yes, I do. And I win. Yeah. Negotiate like a girl. I like her. And we've come kind of Twitter friends-ish.
And hi.
Yeah. And hi.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I always like to stop by and say hi. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't wait until the day I actually do get to meet her. I am looking forward to it. I don't know where or when, but it'll happen.
So there you have it, Raider Nation. This seems like a good place to pause the interview. Amy Trask, first female CEO. Great talking about her. Hey, maybe one day we can even get her on the show.
That would be awesome.
We are going to wrap up this episode, and we'll be getting the second part of this interview to you probably the start of next week.
And be sure to contact us, Raider Nation. Leave us a voicemail at 904-701-8667. We want to hear from you. Tell us what you thought about the interview with Karen. Tell us if you can make it there. You can also follow us on Twitter at The Only Nation Pod, Instagram at Only Nation Pod, and Facebook, The Only Nation Podcast. Get there and leave comments. Send us some messages. Tell us what you like about the show, what you don't like about the show, because we are eager to hear from you.
And most importantly, remember An Evening with Jalen Richard. It's going to be March 6th from 6 to 10 p.m. at Red's Roadhouse in Kendall, Texas. Contact Platinum Group Productions if you have any questions. You can contact them at platinumgroupproductions@gmail.com. I think that sums it up for us this week. Thanks again, Homer, for doing this interview with me. Thank you, Karen, for joining us. And we will talk to you next week. Go Raiders.
Go Raiders.